Hello and welcome back to my channel. Would you believe if someone told you that aliens prolonged the Cold War? How and why did they do it? That is exactly what I am going to talk about in this video. Let's begin right away. I have a friend who passionately argues that these alleged aliens are interested in Earth's resources, particularly human emotions. According to him and others, aliens orchestrate and prolong crises, conflicts, and wars to generate intense emotional responses from humanity. These emotions, particularly fear, anxiety, anger, and grief, are supposedly harvested by these entities as a form of sustenance or power. Those who believe in this narrative provide evidence of this manipulation in various global events and persistent conflicts. I know you might want to hear how aliens prolonged the Cold War to feed off fear and anxiety from the threat of nuclear conflicts. We all know that the Cold War was a period of geopolitical tension that spanned several decades and kept the world on edge with the looming threat of nuclear annihilation. So, there lies the catch. Listen to this now. Let's have a quick overview of the Cold War before connecting it to the aliens. The Cold War featured geopolitical tension between the United States and the Soviet Union, lasting from the late 1940s until the collapse of the Soviet Union in 1991. This conflict was characterized by ideological and political rivalry between capitalist democracy and communist authoritarianism. This implies it was not a direct military confrontation between the two superpowers. The era saw intense competition in nuclear arms development, space exploration, and global influence. Both sides were seeking to expand their spheres of control through alliances, economic aid, and sometimes proxy wars in developing nations. Key events included the Berlin blockade, the Cuban Missile Crisis, and the Vietnam War. The conflict permeated many aspects of society, from popular culture to scientific research. It led to significant technological advancements, but also fostered a climate of fear and suspicion. The threat of nuclear war loomed large, with both superpowers amassing vast arsenals capable of global destruction. This tension profoundly shaped international relations and domestic policies in countries worldwide for nearly half a century. So, how is the Cold War related to alien manipulation? Proponents of the alien farm theory argue that the conflict's unique characteristics align with their concept of emotional energy harvesting. In another video, I explained the alien farm theory, arguing that aliens cultivate the Earth and its inhabitants for physical and emotional energy resources. These people claim that aliens deliberately prolonged and intensified the Cold War to generate a constant stream of fear, anxiety, and tension on a global scale. In this case, the aliens targeted emotional resources, which include fear, anxiety, and tension. These theorists explain that the war was unusual in nature to show that aliens carefully orchestrated it. In other words, it was a prolonged standoff without direct conflict between the main powers. They argue that the persistent threat of nuclear annihilation was an ideal scenario for harvesting intense emotions because it kept millions in a state of constant dread. Believers also cite the rapid technological advancements during this period as possible results of alien influence. Such advancements were noted in aerospace and nuclear technology. In aerospace, examples include the development of supersonic aircraft like the SR-71 Blackbird and the Apollo program's success in landing humans on the moon. Nuclear technology saw the creation of ever more powerful weapons, from the hydrogen bomb to multiple independently targetable re-entry vehicles. Other advancements include the development of stealth technology, satellite communications, and early computer systems. Proponents suggest that these leaps in technology were either directly provided by aliens or reverse-engineered from crashed UFOs. The space race served as a cover for increased extraterrestrial activity and the integration of alien technology into human society. Furthermore, they interpret the numerous reported UFO sightings during this era as evidence of alien presence overseeing their farm. The global reach and long duration of the Cold War are seen as intentional features designed to maximize emotional energy production from humanity. One of the most famous occurred in 1952, when multiple unidentified objects were detected on radar and visually observed over Washington, D.C., prompting the scrambling of interceptor jets. In 1957, the Levelland UFO case in Texas involved multiple witnesses reporting a large egg-shaped object that supposedly interfered with vehicle engines. The 1961 Betty and Barney Hill abduction claim became one of the first widely publicized accounts of alleged alien abduction in the United States. Military installations were not exempt from these phenomena. In 1967, personnel at Malmstrom Air Force Base in Montana reported UFOs allegedly interfering with nuclear missiles. Across the Atlantic, the Rendlesham Forest incident of 1980 involved U.S. Air Force personnel stationed in the U.K. claiming to have seen strange lights and a triangular craft in a nearby forest. The Belgian UFO wave of 1989-1990 saw numerous sightings of triangular UFOs, some of which were reportedly tracked on military radar. Believers in this theory argue that the prevalence of these sightings, especially near military and nuclear facilities, indicate alien monitoring of human conflict potential. What are the key concepts cited from the alien farm theory to advance their views? The first key component of extraterrestrial emotional energy harvesting during the Cold War is the unprecedented duration and intensity of the crisis. Proponents point out that the conflict lasted for nearly half a century, maintaining a constant state of tension without escalating into direct warfare between the superpowers. They suggest that aliens deliberately prolong the conflict to maximize emotional energy harvesting. Examples cited include the Berlin blockade, 1948-1949, which initiated tensions. Theorists view the Berlin blockade as a calculated event to initiate Cold War tensions. They argue that this 11-month crisis, where the Soviet Union blocked Western access to Berlin, was orchestrated to generate fear and uncertainty on a global scale. The resulting Berlin airlift and heightened East-West hostility allegedly provided a rich source of emotional energy for extraterrestrial harvesting. The Vietnam War of 1955 to 1975 and Soviet-Afghan War of 1979 to 1989 are seen as strategically prolonged proxy conflicts designed to sustain global anxiety. According to them, these wars, lasting 20 and 10 years respectively, were manipulated by extraterrestrials to maintain a constant state of global anxiety. The widespread media coverage, civilian casualties, and international tension generated by these conflicts are seen as intentional means to produce sustained emotional distress, fear, and anger, prime sources for alleged alien energy harvesting. Theorists also highlight how the Cold War permeated everyday life, from duck and cover drills in schools to the construction of personal fallout shelters. The creation of mutual defense pacts like NATO and the Warsaw Pact is viewed as a means to globalize the conflict, ensuring a wider emotional harvest. They argue that this persistent, widespread fear and tension over decades is unnatural and indicative of external manipulation for non-human purposes. The second key component of extraterrestrial emotional energy harvesting during the Cold War is the constant state of fear and anxiety that characterized the era. They argued that this persistent psychological tension was intentionally cultivated and maintained. Examples cited include the proliferation of nuclear fallout shelters in private homes and public buildings, reflecting widespread fear of atomic warfare. The implementation of air raid drills and duck and cover exercises in schools kept even children in a state of constant alertness. The infamous doomsday clock, maintained by atomic scientists, was a perpetual reminder of how close humanity was to global catastrophe. Media played a significant role, with apocalyptic films like Dr. Strangelove and The Day After reinforcing nuclear anxiety. These films vividly portrayed the horrors of nuclear war, bringing the abstract threat into stark reality for viewers. Dr. Strangelove used dark satire to highlight the absurdity and danger of nuclear politics, while The Day After graphically depicted the devastating aftermath of a nuclear attack, intensifying public fears and anxieties. The space race, while inspiring awe, also instilled fear of falling behind technologically. Publicized events like the U-2 spy plane incident in 1960 and the Cuban Missile Crisis in 1962 spiked global tensions periodically. The U-2 spy plane incident in 1960 heightened Cold War tensions when the Soviet Union shot down an American reconnaissance aircraft, exposing covert surveillance activities. The Cuban Missile Crisis in 1962 brought the world to the brink of nuclear war as the U.S. and USSR engaged in a tense standoff over Soviet missiles in Cuba.
So, what evidence shows that aliens were harvesting emotional resources during the Cold War?
Number 1. UFO sightings. Theorists argue that this omnipresent fear, touching every aspect of daily life for decades, was too pervasive to be purely coincidental and must have been orchestrated for non-human purposes. Proponents of the alien farm theory point to numerous unexplained UFO sightings during the Cold War as evidence of extraterrestrial presence and activity. They argue that these sightings were actually aliens monitoring and harvesting emotional energy from humans during this tense period. Apparently, UFOs were often reported near military installations, nuclear facilities, and areas of conflict, supposedly to collect intense emotions like fear and anxiety. Incidents such as the Malmstrom Air Force Base UFO encounter in 1967, where nuclear missiles allegedly malfunctioned, are seen as aliens directly interfering to heighten tension. Theorists claim that the frequency and visibility of these sightings served a dual purpose: to harvest energy from the fear and wonder they generated, and to maintain a level of uncertainty and unease in the population. Number 2. Government cover-ups. The inability of governments to explain these phenomena is interpreted as further evidence of alien manipulation of human affairs during the Cold War. Proponents argue that this lack of transparency was not merely due to national security concerns, but rather a result of alien influence or intervention. Theorists point to incidents like the U.S. Air Force's Project Blue Book, which investigated UFO sightings but was criticized for dismissing many cases without thorough explanation. They also cite the alleged Roswell cover-up and other instances where official statements seemed inconsistent or implausible. This governmental silence is seen as part of a larger alien strategy to maintain a climate of uncertainty and speculation. Aliens allowed rumors and conspiracy theories to proliferate to ensure a constant undercurrent of anxiety and mistrust. This would further contribute to the emotional energy they were purportedly harvesting. Now let's summarize this discussion. Some people believe that extraterrestrial beings orchestrated and prolonged the Cold War to harvest human emotional energy. They argue that the conflict's duration, intensity, and the constant fear it generated were intentionally manipulated by aliens. They point to rapid technological advancements, unexplained UFO sightings, and the pervasive anxiety of the era as evidence of this manipulation. These claims may seem to offer simple explanations for complex historical events. However, we must approach such theories with critical thinking. Experts argue that the Cold War was a product of very real geopolitical, ideological, and economic factors. Mainstream historians and political scientists have extensively documented and analyzed these human-driven causes and effects. When evaluating such theories like this, we must consider the available evidence, seek out expert opinions, and apply logical reasoning. Imaginative speculation can be intriguing, but understanding historical events typically requires examining verifiable facts and considering the complexities of human society and international relations. There you have it, folks. Until next time, stay informed. I'll catch you in the next video.